Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, welcome back from Ukraine. You have obviously dealt with issues relating to energy, and you've heard a lot from the members of the Republican side today. Energy, the way Russia uses energy as a weapon, and the impact it has brought to Ukraine. Senator Rounds asked a question on energy, and you stated that we need to accelerate transition to renewables. And you said you can't weaponize the sun, can't weaponize the wind, but you also can't run a modern economy on sunshine and whether it's a windy day or not. And I just say from the first days in this administration, the Biden administration has failed to prioritize energy security, which I've always said is part of our national security. Now, under your leadership, the State Department is looking to cut deals with dictators in order to access more energy resources. The State Department is in negotiations to remove sanctions on Iran's energy sector as part of the Iran nuclear deal. The State Department officials have traveled to Venezuela to meet with Maduro to discuss removing sanctions to access additional crude oil. You personally called on OPEC Plus to increase production to, quote, stabilize global energy markets to make sure that there remains an abundant supply of energy around the world. Your State Department then went to Qatar and other foreign countries to ask them to export more liquefied natural gas to Europe. All of this happening at the same time that the administration that you serve on has made it harder to produce American energy. And I heard about it again this week back home in Wyoming. To me, energy security is critically important. Our adversaries would love to see us even more dependent upon them to meet our own energy needs at home in America. I think we should not be removing energy sanctions on brutal dictators. It's unacceptable to bankroll the terrorist activities of Iran. It's a mistake to go to Venezuela and ask for more energy. And I think it's dangerous to rely on Russia for energy resources, in oil, gas, coal, and uranium. I think we need to increase production of American energy resources. So our nation has plenty of energy to power our nation and to provide our allies and friends with a stable energy supply. So could you just explain why the administration is more focused on buying energy from our enemies than finding ways to increase American energy exports and production here?
Thank you, Senator. A few things. First, we're focused primarily in the near term in making sure that there are abundant supplies of energy on the world markets to our benefit, to the benefit of American consumers, so that prices are held in check. Also to help Europeans, make this transition, especially in the midst of the Russian aggression against Ukraine. And we want to make sure that we're doing that in a way, as I said, that doesn't spike prices and line President Putin's pockets. So that makes, I think, good sense. We've taken a number of steps, as I mentioned, to support this effort, including doubling our LNG exports to Europe just in the last few months. The President has called as well for increased domestic production. As you know well, there are thousands of licenses that have not been used that exist, and we'll see if production increases as a result. And as it comes to renewables, we've been very clear all along that this is a process and a transition. It's not flipping a light switch. And so we have to have abundant sources of energy of various kinds going forward, even as we make the transition. There are tremendous opportunities over time in this transition, particularly when it comes to American technology in leading this effort and having vast new markets. But it is a process, it's a transition, and we need to make sure that we have abundant supplies of energy on the market. When it comes to other countries, first of all, with regard to Venezuela, the visit to Venezuela was made with the objective of getting released Americans who were being unjustly detained, and in fact, we were able to bring home 2 of those Americans, as well as to press the Venezuelans to re-engage in talks with the united opposition on moving back to free elections and democracy. That was the focus of the visit. And with regard to Iran, the purpose of the negotiations with Iran is to see if we can get the Iranians back into compliance with the Iranian nuclear agreement, which has clear benefits to the United States and making it much more difficult for Iran to get fissile material for a nuclear weapon. That's the purpose of that engagement. The purpose is not to get more Iranian oil on the markets.
Let me move to the crisis at the southern border. Last month, 220,000 illegal immigrants apprehended at the U.S.-Mexico border. 2021, after President Biden was sworn into office, 1.9 million apprehensions, currently on pace for 2 million this year. President Biden tasked the vice president with addressing the crisis at the southern border. President is talking about removing Article 42 because apparently COVID is behind us, although since you started testifying this morning, there's been news reports that Senator Wyden, Senator Murphy from this committee, and the Vice President are all right now with COVID. So, you know, during the Vice President's visit to Guatemala last year, Vice President Kamala Harris sent a message to illegal immigrants attempting to enter the United States. She said, "I want to be clear to folks in this region who are thinking about making this dangerous trek to the United States-Mexico border. Do not come, do not come." She went on to say, "I believe if you come to the border, you will be turned back." Well, do you agree with those statements by the Vice President that if you come, you will be turned back?
I would agree. If people come to the border and can't show a legal basis for coming into the United States under asylum or other rules, they will be removed. That is the policy. And let me just say, when it comes to Title 42, as you know, Senator, this is a CDC authority. It's not immigration policy. So the CDC will make its judgment. They made a judgment to terminate the Title 42 next month. But if that happens, as I said, what will happen as a practical matter, if people come to the border and try to get in without the necessary legal basis to do so, they will be sent away.
Well, and that's not happening, and it's not going to happen. And that's how you go from more illegal immigrants coming into the country in the first 14 months of President Biden in office than over the previous 4 years with President Trump in the White House. And now we're at a point where we're facing a crisis that the administration appears to be sending a different message with this revoking Title 42. I think it's an important border control tool. It is a critical border control tool, as you mentioned, as a public health to protect the public. It's going to result, what we're going to see, I think, is a massive surge. The head of Homeland Security from this administration said they're not prepared. The head of Homeland Security from President Obama's term said we're not prepared to handle what's coming this way. So Elizabeth Warren explained on CNN this weekend, and Mr. Chairman, this will be my final question. She said the Biden administration is putting plans in place to deal with people who are asking for amnesty and relief at the border. So would you please describe the plans that the Biden administration is putting in place, that Senator Warren alluded to deal with this surge of migrants attempting to enter our country illegally?
Senator, I would refer you to DHS, which is responsible for the border and for those plans. The focus that I'm bringing to this is making sure that, to the best of our ability, we are getting countries throughout our hemisphere where we have an unprecedented situation. We have not only migrants from the Northern Triangle, we have, as you know, Venezuela, Nicaragua, Haiti, Cuba, and then other countries that have had populations from some of these countries who are also seeing them move north. And what's vital from the perspective of the State Department is to build a sense of shared responsibility for dealing with this. That's exactly what we've been doing. I just got back from Panama, where we had the foreign ministers of virtually all of the concerned countries in place to take practical steps to deal with this. For example, we have bilateral arrangements now with Costa Rica and Panama, and we're working on more, where countries will take steps, for example, to put in place transit visas so that people can't go through their countries to try to come to the United States, to do repatriations themselves, to treat people humanely, to apply protections, to grant asylum themselves, as opposed to having people come to the United States to seek it. All of these things are practical steps that we are working on and putting into effect as the State Department to help deal with what is an unprecedented situation. In addition, there's going to be a Summit of the Americas, as I mentioned earlier, led by President Biden in a couple of months, where this will be a major topic of issue. But look, I would again refer you to DHS. We obviously have, over many years, challenges in effectively, humanely, and efficiently processing those who come to our country and make claims of asylum. We need more resources to do that effectively, efficiently, so that their cases can be adjudicated very quickly. And if they do not have a legal basis for being here, they're returned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator